Welcome to the Common Man Football Show. My name is James Coburn, and today's episode, we're talking about Jarvis Landry's analytics profile. With the recent news of Jarvis Landry being franchise tagged by the Miami Dolphins, I figured it would be a good thing to do a video about him because he was someone who was set to hit free agency, and now he is off the market. And the Miami Dolphins will be paying about $16 million, give or take a couple $1,000s here and there, to retain his services for the 2018 season. And this video primarily is going to deal with what exactly is Jarvis Landry worth on the open market. What is his actual value? What are some pros? What are some cons of him? And to give you sort of a well-rounded idea of him as a player based on the analytics, more so than film or anything else like that. So this is purely about what Jarvis Landry looks like on paper. We're going to look at his pre-draft profile to give you an idea of what he looked like coming out of college. We're going to take a look at his NFL profile and then come to a couple conclusions about, again, what he's actually worth on the open market and what his value to a team is when it's all said and done. So all terms and definitions are going to be in the description, so if you're new to the channel, you're new to the work that I do, you can basically just go there, and all the things I'm going to be talking about in the video are going to be there in terms of you know, the definitions therein. I'm going to do the best I can to explain things as I go along, but I do understand that a lot of this information is stuff that isn't as readily available. People don't usually talk about all this stuff when it comes to the mainstream draft and NFL people. So we're just going to go from there. So first off, we're going to look at Jarvis Landry's pre-draft profile. When you look at Jarvis Landry from a college market share production standpoint, college market share production, for those that aren't familiar with this term, is where you take individual receiving yardage. So you take Jarvis Landry's receiving yardage and then you divide it by the team total receiving yardage. So for example, if a wide receiver had 1,000 yards and a 4,000 yard passing offense, then that wide receiver had 25% passing yardage market share. But what you do is you take that number and you compare it to every single wide receiver performance since the 1969 NFL draft class, and then boom, you have a way of seeing where this particular player ended up when it comes to his overall market share data, if you will. And when you look at Jarvis Landry, he had an 89.58 college market share production score, and which is really good. That was the main thing that really stuck out about Jarvis Landry in terms of his pre-draft profile, was that he had very good production coming out of LSU from a market share perspective. And when you look at the averages at the position, so like the average All-Pro score and the average Pro Bowl score and the average starter score, and this is the average for every All-Pro wide receiver since the 1969 NFL draft class, Jarvis Landry does pretty well, again, in those particular aspects of the position, and is a little bit closer to Pro Bowl player than he is a All-Pro player, but he's still within that range of possibilities, you know, in between All-Pro and Pro Bowl, and he's ended up becoming a Pro Bowl wide receiver, at least at the NFL level. So you have to say that in this particular way, the market share data kind of won out for Jarvis Landry versus his athleticism data, which we're going to get to here. When it comes to Jarvis Landry and his athleticism data, that wasn't that great. In fact, that was one of the reasons why he fell a little bit in the draft process, was because of his athleticism testing. He had a 35.39 explosive lower body strength score, a 45.06 speed score, and a 4.32 flexibility score. Based on my data since the 1999 NFL draft class, what I've noticed is that the vast majority, 95%, of multiple All-Pro slash Pro Bowl wide receivers since 1999 had at least 154 or higher athleticism score. So when it comes to Jarvis Landry, he's a bit of an outlier when it comes to his athleticism data, not his production data. His production data was indicative of a potential Pro Bowl wide receiver, and he's ended up becoming a Pro Bowl wide receiver. But when you look at his athleticism data, that is the one area of his data that kind of doesn't hold up, to say the least. And he's very kind of Chad Johnson-ish when it comes to his overall data. In fact, this is Chad Johnson in terms of his athleticism data, just to kind of as a sort of comparison. So You know, Landry is just one of those guys that falls into that Chad Johnson sort of category of a wide receiver that didn't really have the best athleticism data coming out, but ended up becoming a Pro Bowl wide receiver and did have things coming out of college from a production standpoint that looked really good. Kind of like Chad Johnson as well. Chad Johnson was a guy who had decent production stuff coming out, but the athleticism just didn't really match up to those sort of areas. But that was kind of what Jarvis Landry's pre-draft profile was, is that he had a very good production profile, but a not so great athleticism profile, which is why when it comes to wide receivers in the draft process, I tend to go with the production data versus the athleticism data, because there are tons of wide receivers that were incredible athletes that were not productive and didn't do anything at the NFL level, but there's also a ton of a handful of dudes that weren't that athletic that ended up becoming very good NFL wide receivers, and they had very good production coming out. So, you know, wide receiver is one of those positions where athleticism does matter, but I think it matters a lot in terms of what you are doing with a wide receiver. You know, how does this wide receiver win? Does he win with route running? Does he win with brute strength? Does he win with speed? Like, you know, how exactly does he win? And if he wins on film with a particular skill set that complements his athleticism, or where his athleticism doesn't really matter as much, then that's how you would kind of approach that particular position. Now let's get to his actual NFL production. Again, all terms and definitions are in the description. So things like MSPY is passing yardage market share, and MSY is total offensive market share. So basically, it's the total offense versus the passing yardage offense data. I mean, you look at Jarvis Landry, pretty decent production from a macro standpoint from 2015 to 2017, 90+ percentile. In terms of his, you know, passing yardage market share, except for 2017. That was where he had 88.40. And then his total offensive market share has been pretty good from 2015 to 2017 as well. So again, from a macro standpoint, Jarvis Landry has done amazing, meaning that he's gotten a lot of yards and those other sort of things. But from a micro standpoint, this is where things get a little bit tricky. Now, the first thing we're going to look at is completion percentage data. So essentially, this deals with every time you throw a ball at Jarvis Landry, how often does a completion get made? Is essentially what this data deals with in terms of first down, second down, third down, and fourth down. And when you look at Jarvis Landry, he's very good when it comes to the completion percentage data. You know, when it comes to first down, second down, and third down, very high completion percentage. In fact, he is one of the most high completion wide receivers when it comes to second down in most of his career, and of course on third down, very, very high completion percentage as well from 2014, 2016, and 2017. He's had pretty high completion percentage. So Jarvis Landry is just that wide receiver that has always had pretty decent completion percentage data. You know, like if you target Jarvis Landry, there's a very good chance on those particular downs that a completion is going to be made, and when a completion gets made, there's a high chance that could turn into a first down or a touchdown or whatever. But this is where the issues show up for Jarvis Landry. When you look at his actual first down conversion rate, meaning every time you get the ball to Jarvis Landry and a completion gets made, how often does that turn into a first down? And unfortunately for Jarvis Landry, it doesn't. Like, this is the big sort of issue with Jarvis Landry, is that he has very high completion percentage, or at least above average completion percentage data on first down, second down, and third down. But when it comes to actually taking those completions and turning them into first downs, he doesn't do that well. Like, his best down is first down, above average in terms of his ability to complete first downs into first down in terms of 2014, average in 2016, but below average in 2017, and 2015, below average in both those particular areas. Second down, he's been really below average on first downs, on second down. When it comes to 2017, 2016, 2015, and 2014, and then third down has been even worse in terms of his ability to convert those first downs into third down, or those third downs into first down, excuse me, when it comes to his overall data. So this is the big issue with Jarvis Landry, is that he typically, and some of this could be the offense that he's in. I'm not trying to criticize Jarvis Landry 100% about this particular information, but what I am saying is Jarvis Landry has a weird profile because he has very high completion percentage data, So whenever you target Jarvis Landry, a completion is going to be made. It's just a first down is not necessarily going to be made every time, and that is concerning. You know, it's pretty concerning. You know, when you have that type of situation with a guy like him. So that's kind of the big issue with Jarvis Landry, is that sort of, and some of that has to do with the fact that he's a slot receiver and all those other sort of things. But that would be my only worry with Jarvis Landry, is that this is not someone who looks like a all-star wide receiver. This is not someone who looks like a top 3, top 5, top 10 wide receiver. And even from a macro standpoint, if you just want to take the yardage argument and say that, well, you want a wide receiver that has a ton of yardage or market share, he's been good, but he's not exactly been elite in any one particular year. And on top of that, you add in his micro stuff, and it just doesn't really add up. So I do think Jarvis Landry is a wide receiver that, you know, is worth consideration as a top 20, top 15 wide receiver. But you just paid him, or at least when you franchise tag a wide receiver like him, you're basically paying him like a wide receiver that's worth top 3, top 5 money. Is basically what you're doing, or you know, even higher than that in some cases. So I just have issues with the franchise tag from the perspective of this is a wide receiver who is not worth that much. This is a wide receiver that has not had a single season where he was the best wide receiver in the NFL from a macro standpoint or from a micro standpoint, from his analytical data. And in many ways, he is a slot receiver who does really well as a slot receiver. Is very admirable in terms of what he does, but that's not exactly worth top 5 money. So that's the biggest thing with him. I think if Jarvis Landry gets a contract done where he gets paid top 20, top 15 wide receiver money, I don't really have the figures in front of me right now, but I think you could kind of do the math on that yourself. Then I think you're going to do well with a guy like him, because he has shown the ability to be very productive. He was very productive in college. He's been very productive at the NFL level, but he's not the most efficient wide receiver. And because of that lack of total efficiency in terms of his overall game, I just have a lot of issues with that. But let me know in the comment section below, do you believe that Jarvis Landry is worth top 5 or top 3 overall wide receiver money? And of course, my name is James Coburn. You can find my other work at draftcoburn.wordpress.com. You can also follow me on Twitter at Geometrics. And if you like this content and you want more content like this, be sure to leave a like and subscribe. Share this video as well with anybody that you know. Hit that notification button so that you're always reminded when another video of mine drops. And I'll talk to you guys in the next video. Peace.